from your past employment, what you rate as your best achievement, and how will it assist you in transforming the next employment that you have been nominated to, if approved?
Thank you, Speaker. Of course, I also wish to congratulate the nominee, and I realize that you are a private sector person. Basically, 90% of your professional life is in the private sector. What is it that you see that you can bring from the private sector to influence your activity in the public sector, which you are aspiring to be, if you are approved? And secondly, on the issue of issues of technology, we have the Konza Techno City, we have the government laptop project. Well, the Konza Techno City has been unable to take off properly for a very long time. The laptop project also, well, is on course, but it's not moving as fast as it should be. What would you do as if you are appointed to be a CS, if you are confirmed, to make sure that these two specific projects proceed, and especially on the basis of the fact that you have some quite a good private sector background which can be useful? What would you do?
Okay, thank you.
Take another one more from Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me that opportunity. First, I want to congratulate Mr. Mucheru for the nomination. I have three short questions. One, you stated that in your private life, at one time, you took CCK to court. Now, CAK is now called CAK, or CA, it's called CA. Now that is one of the organizations under you, might there be likelihood that you have some scores to settle with them, and you'll use your office to deal with people who offended you and who you took them to court? Can you clarify? One. Number two, I am sure not only in Kenya, the biggest infrastructure that terrorists use across the world is the internet. In radicalizing young people, in exposing information, and they have shifted from the mainstream conventional platforms. They no longer use religious institutions. But because of the access to technology, a lot of young people are radicalized to the internet. Now that we have a very competent minister who has a serious background on this sector, what will you do to make sure that, and I'm sure in France, in the US, in Europe, certain measures are being put. It's now beyond a doubt that the internet is a source for dissemination of terrorism articles and information, and also recruiting. It's a recruiting platform. And along that, how do you also save our children? You know, the Kenyan children from accessing harmful materials from the internet by using their phones. And then finally, since the Jubilee government came to power, the relationship between the media and government has not been one of the best. And we believed that one of the major reasons was the stakeholders were not talking. The ministry concerned and the media were not talking to each other. They were talking at cross purpose. What assurance can you give the country that if you are nominated, that you will have the best of relationship with the fourth estate, that you will have a constant communication, that we will not hear where that you will resolve all your issues in the boardroom, that you know, you will be the first cabinet secretary that will stop this animosity between government and the fourth estate. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, firstly, let me start with Honorable Kitanu's questions on cybersecurity, data protection, privacy, and how to address those as issues. So, as the internet and technology, evolves, it is critical that if we're going to be in terms of the hub for Africa or East Africa for ICT and convert Kenya into a knowledge economy, these are going to be fundamental laws that we must put in place. I know at the moment that CA has already published version 0s for comment from the public on cybersecurity, for instance, data protection, also looking at privacy. These are all very critical laws that would help any investors that are coming into the country to put up, say, data centers, to store any of their content in this country. And I believe that in my role, I would want to make sure that Kenya becomes the place where content is produced. Content is probably the biggest and most important asset that we have as a country and that we can use to be able to attract people to come to our country to invest. And so the laws are currently in progress, and CA is working on them, and we should be able to, hopefully before too long, have those enacted through Parliament, and we can then begin to see investment actually flowing and protection coming in. And to go with that, technology allows us to be able to go to very granular details, where you can tell either what people are doing, what they're using, and so from just being able to protect, say, our children from accessing harmful materials, these softwares, there's a lot of things that parents can be able to use, or teachers, but usually the challenge is that not everybody is educated enough on all these technologies, or on how to use, or to safeguard the devices, whether it is phones or the software. So there's got to be a lot of education done, whether it is from the manufacturers of the devices or the owners of the software, to make sure that it is easy to set up these controls. I know, for instance, on the broadcasting side, we need to have the watershed hours. It's difficult right now to find a channel that is very safe in the morning. I take my children to school in the morning, and to find maybe a radio channel that is safe for them to listen and myself is not easy. So we're going to spend time with the media talking about how to manage this content. I even tried some of the religious stations, and the advertisements that they put make it very hard. So the kids start asking questions, when somebody is saying maybe they're drunkard or they've done several things and they want to repent, and that's an advertisement, then it's difficult. So we want to have real conversations that tell, the media that, we have to get the right content at the right time. I think it's important to remember that KBC is also, one of the instruments that the country has for communication. And we fund KBC from taxpayers' money as well. And therefore, we should have plans that actually revive KBC and make it glorious again. One thing that KBC has is content. They have a lot of content, historical from 1953. And today, when you look at Google as a company, we primarily make our money from content, advertising. And it's content from everywhere. So today we service more than 1 billion people a day, 60,000 people. But most of that is content, being able to organize it. And I believe KBC can be brought to a point where we use that content. We use content from the Kenya News Agency that can actually then give us, first of all, a view of where we've come from. Start giving us a better way to look at the country, ourselves, start having a perspective that makes things work better for us, and have, I would say, a more positive outlook. We can see the developments that have actually taken place. The other thing with KBC is that they've got a lot of assets. They've got land And you can combine some of the assets they have, like land, to be able to use that for maybe joint ventures or sell some of it and be able to build a much better, bigger institution that actually goes also regional. We start giving more information about not only Kenya, but the region itself. We're integrating all the time. So it's important to do that. They have, for instance, in town, all these antennas or dishes. Those probably should be moved to Konza City, and that land be used for something else that is more useful, and they have such assets. So there are things that we can even do to make Konza work even better. So I would say from a content point of view, there are ways to use technology to control the access that children would have, access that even in terms of security. One of the things that we've been talking about in the sector is that the government doesn't have an email service for everybody. Most of the time they talk about security, but actually we can use technology to make sure that there is actually more security.